Hi, my loves, and welcome back to I'm On Your Side with me, your host, Sierra Boudreau. Happy Sunday, or whatever day it is that you guys are listening to this. You guys, there is so much going on. I feel like over the past couple of weeks, we have started the episodes talking about the move because the move is like the biggest thing happening in my life right now. But it is really getting down to the wire. It is crunch time for the move. I had a man come over today to take estimates, or not take estimates, to take inventory of all of the stuff that I have so that he can give me a moving estimate. And we went over like item by item, everything that I have in the apartment, everything that's going on the truck. And he's going to give me that estimate in a couple of hours. And so that was happening today. And he was like, okay, when do you want your stuff delivered? Like, what is your ideal timeline? And I let him know that we close on the 3rd. So I would like the stuff maybe the 4th or the 5th. And he was like, okay, so we basically need to be getting the stuff like this upcoming week or next week at the latest. And I was like, oh, wow. Actually, like right now is when you need to have all of my stuff packed up and put on a truck. Great. Thank you so much for letting me know. I don't know why I thought that maybe it just wouldn't take that long. I knew, like in my heart of hearts, I knew it was going to take that long. I knew that I was going to have to be living out of a suitcase, sleeping on an air mattress for a good while here. I knew that. But just to hear it out loud really has been stressing me out. And there's just so much stuff that needs to get done. But I'm trying not to freak out about it because I know that it all is going to get done and it's really exciting. Like this is a really exciting time in my life and I need to just, take it as it comes and do what I can, control what I can control and let the rest of it go. But you guys, I am just feeling like in this state of disarray and like what is even going on. I told you guys on Instagram today, which I thought that I talked about this on Instagram a lot more than I had, but apparently I hadn't. But today I was like giving kind of the timeline of the next couple of weeks and I was like, yeah, and then we closed and I drive to Dallas and everyone was like, Dallas, like you're moving to Dallas, what is going on? And I was like, first of all, you guys are exposing yourselves for not listening to the podcast, because if you listen to the podcast, you would have known weeks ago that I was moving to Dallas. That said, yes, I'm moving to Dallas, and my DMs were just like crazy of people being like, I didn't know you were moving to Dallas. I didn't know you bought a house in Dallas. And I thought that I talked more about it than I did. And so I was just already feeling overwhelmed, and then getting all those DMs, I was like, oh, I'm feeling extra overwhelmed. But yeah, the man came over, took the inventory, and now I'm getting a better idea of kind of what needs to go on in the next couple of weeks and really just focus and get my head in the game. Like, is this High School Musical 3? I feel like High School Musical 3, seeing that in theater was the last time that I knew absolute, unadulterated, true joy and peace. There is nothing like seeing that graduation scene and feeling like, oh my God, this is the best moment of my life. Not even the point, but moving on, that's what's going on. And I want to just dive right into the episode because other than moving stuff, which I feel like we've talked about week in and week out, I don't have a lot going on. We were in Maine. Actually, I do want to talk about Maine. We were in Maine the past couple of days and Maine was beautiful. It was so much fun to be there. I think it was different than I expected. I'm not really sure if I had a full idea of what I expected Maine to be like. We stayed in Edgecombe, so a little bit more north of Portland. And then we drove from Edgecombe to Bar Harbor and then through Acadia National Park. And that was the highlight of the trip. Acadia was beautiful. It was a lot smaller than we thought it was going to be, but it was so beautiful. I wish I brought a swimsuit so we could sit and hang out at the beach, but it was pretty overcast. So being at the beach really wasn't like going to be a big, long, drawn out thing because it looked like it was going to rain at any moment. Super beautiful trip. We ate quite a few lobster rolls. When I tell you guys a lobster roll is like $35 each, okay? And I should have known that because it's lobster. But you're telling me that some cold lobster on a piece of Texas toast with butter on top is $35? Like, in what world are people eating that often? I couldn't be eating that often. And we had one that was truly so good. And then the next one we had, I was like, oh, this actually isn't great. And I was telling Alex that if I had the second one first, I wouldn't have wanted another one. But since I had the first one, I thought they were all going to be that good. So then we went back and got another one, later in the trip and then realized, oh, they're not actually all that good. That one was just a really, really good one. So if I want another lobster roll next time I'm in Maine, I know where to go. And when I say I know where to go, I mean, I really could not tell you the name of the place right now off the top of my head. If somebody was like, what is the name of the place you had the best lobster roll you think you'll ever have? I really couldn't tell you. I don't know. We went through a little park where there was a lighthouse and they just had this food truck set up and that's where we got it from. And I'm sure the name will come to me, but if you DM me in a couple of days, I'm sure the name will have come to me, but right now I am completely blanking on it. So as you guys know, obviously I am buying my first house, and with that, I've been taking a really, really close look at my budget and how much I'm spending and how much I'm saving, investing, all of that stuff to get a better idea of my finances finances. I have sent over all of my finances to the lender. They know more about me than I think I know about myself at this point. They have all of my information. So I've been getting a really, really close look at my finances and just making sure that everything is squared away. And with that, I have been reflecting on how I've been spending money and my consumption, my overconsumption, really, and just how much I have spent in the past without really realizing how much it was, and just the different financial places I could be or am in because my relationship with spending, my relationship with overconsumption, with underconsumption, with, saying no to myself, saying yes to myself, all of that. And it all really ties into our financial health. And what I've learned about my financial health, especially recently, is that when I don't have a very clear goal, a very clear reason to save for something, then it is so easy to not be very mindful about the money coming in and the money going out. It's just everything feels fun and it feels like, oh, we're young and, we have it, so we should spend it, whatever. And now that I have really clear goals that I want to put my money towards, I am reflecting on when I didn't really have that clear goal and thinking, oh my God, if I had just really honed it in and been more thoughtful about my future self, then maybe this would be easier, or maybe that would be easier, or maybe I wouldn't have to budget more for this because I'd already have it saved up, whatever. So with all of that being in my recent thought patterns, I thought it'd be a great time to bring it to the podcast and talk about my relationship with spending and overconsumption and my financial health, because I think that a lot of us kind of struggle with things like this. I made a video on TikTok not that long ago. I posted it on Reels too, I'm pretty sure, but I made a video not that long ago talking about how I've been stopping my overconsumption and how I've been more mindful of my spending. And the video did so well. People really gravitated towards it and loved it. And I realized I actually have a lot of thoughts about financial habits and saving money, spending money, all of that stuff through trial and error. So I thought no better time than to talk about it on the podcast with you guys, because that's kind of in the top of everyone's minds, and also just the top of my mind with everything going on with the move and with my budgeting and all of that. So let's get into it. When we get online these days, we are being sold to left and right, whether by influencers that we follow, by our friends that we follow, by ads served to us through Instagram, TikTok, whatever, through TikTok Shop. And it can feel like one of those situations where if you can't beat it, join it, right? If you can't fight against it, you might as well just give into it. And I really went through that recently, and I really had gone through that where I felt like since I was constantly being sold to, there was really no point in trying to not be sold to, because no matter where I was looking, there was always something trying to get my attention, always something new, something exciting, something shiny. And part of it, I believe, is my ADHD, right? This gravitation towards new, shiny, exciting. And when I see somebody else have something new, shiny, and exciting, I want it for myself. And instead of resting in and being excited about the things that I already have, the things that I already spent my hard-earned money on, the things that I already have collected, it's constantly the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And I really got real with myself, and I was like, why is that? What is it about my relationship with people online? What is it about my relationship with ads that allows me to be so susceptible? And yeah, I think part of it is my ADHD, but I think part of it is also just this unwillingness to tell myself no, this unwillingness to get serious with myself about what my financial goals are and the reasons for telling myself no. Because when I don't have an actual reason to tell myself no, whether I can afford it or just because I want it and there's nothing else coming up on the horizon that's going to, take that money away. When I don't have a really clear reason to tell myself no, I constantly tell myself yes. And what I've learned a lot recently is just because you can afford it doesn't mean you need it. Just because there's some money in your bank account, just because you can swipe your card doesn't really mean that you need it. And I realized that I was going through this really bad habit of only spending in the moment. I wasn't having any hindsight or foresight for what I'd already spent. So in the moment when I wanted something, I would convince myself and say, oh, it's only $10. Oh, it's only $50. Oh, it's only one meal out to eat. Oh, it's only one new shirt, whatever it may be. I was constantly telling myself it's only, and without realizing all of those it's onlys added up to so much money. And every month at the end of the month, I would pay my credit card bill and I was like, oh my God, how did it get this high? This is crazy. And I would go through this statement and realize, oh, that's how it got that high, because I never once thought to tell myself no. I never once thought to sit and just settle with what I already have and be satisfied in that. And I think a lot of us struggle with this, right? A lot of us have a really hard time sitting in satisfaction with what we already have and what we've already put our money towards, because it seems like the trends change so fast, which is a whole another episode talking about the speed of trends and how it feels like nothing really sticks around for long. Trends change so fast, and with a new trend comes something new to overconsume. This recent trends, top of mind, we had coastal grandmother, and then we had mob wife, and then we have demure, and then we have brat, and then we have so many trends, and I'm forgetting so many because they come here and then they are a flash in the pan. They go away, and before we know it, we have so much stuff just piling up in our homes that we have nothing to do with. And I want to ask you, because this is a question I ask myself when I want to buy something, when I see something that I'm thinking, do I want to donate this or give it away? Do I want to keep it? How much of this stuff that I think that I want, or that I've already convinced myself that I needed, is stuff that I really like because I like it? Or do I like it because I saw somebody else have it, because I saw somebody else really enjoy it, because I saw somebody else show it off, because it was on sale? And once I started asking myself that question, I realized a lot of stuff that I've acquired is because somebody else had it, and I thought that if they had it and they're cool and they're fun and they're whatever adjective that I want to become for myself, then I needed to buy that thing. And very rarely does that actually work out. We cannot just buy ourselves into being someone else. Having the stuff is only a part of the equation. Having the stuff of your favorite influencer is not going to give you the life of your favorite influencer. Having the stuff of your favorite celebrity is not going to give you the life of your favorite celebrity. Having the stuff of your friend is not going to give you the life of your friend, right? But we convince ourselves and tie so much meaning to the stuff that we consume that we start to believe, if only I had those jeans, if only I had those shoes, if only I went on that vacation, then. And we're living so much of our lives for the if then, not for the now so. Instead of saying, now I have this, so I am this, we were saying, if I had that, then I'll be this, or if I had that, then I'll do this. And really, does that ever actually work out? I'm thinking about all the times that I convinced myself, if I got that thing, if I went to that place, then something magical, something special would happen. And I can't really recall, top of my brain right now, the last time I bought something convincing myself it was going to make me do something, make me become something, and it actually did. One of my big examples is with fashion, right? We see something online, we see it on Pinterest, we see our favorite influencer post it, we see our friend post it, whatever, and we think, oh, they have that, and so I want it. So you go out and get it, and you realize you can't actually style that shirt, you can't actually style those jeans, you can't actually style those shoes, because nothing in your wardrobe goes with that. So it's a really tricky cycle. Nothing goes with this top, so I need to buy these pants to go with the top. Oh, now that I have the pants, I really need the shoes, because nothing that I have in my closet is really tying stuff together. Oh, but I need the accessories, I need the bag, I need to do my hair a certain way. So now I need to go out and buy this really expensive hair tool. Ooh, but something is a little bit off with my makeup, so I need to get that new foundation. Wait, but my blush doesn't really look that good. So if I get this new blush, oh, I don't have any lipstick that matches the blush. Okay, finally I get the lipstick, but my mascara is a little bit old, and somebody said they really like this mascara, so let me go ahead and get this mascara. Oh my God, something is really wrong with this outfit. It doesn't really go anymore, because by the time I've acquired all of the things to make this outfit, the trend has changed. Now nobody's wearing this anymore, and I don't feel good about it, because it was never actually something that I really liked and something that I really valued. I liked it and valued it because other people liked it and valued it. And so when that happens and the trend changes, all of that stuff that you spent money on that you now have in your closet becomes worthless to you. How much stuff do you have in your closet? How much makeup do you have? How many shoes do you own that now feel worthless to you because you bought them because they were part of a trend that you didn't even really connect with, but you thought, if I buy into this trend, then I'm buying into this idea, this sense of self. And when I have this stuff, then I become this person. And when I become this person, then people are going to like me more. People are going to gravitate towards me. People are going to think I'm cool. They're going to think I'm better. They're going to think I'm interesting. And see how it becomes this cycle where you never actually feel like you're enough. And you think it's really not a big deal. It's just a shirt. It's just a pair of jeans. It's just a lipstick. And individually, it's really not a big deal. But it's about what is actually pushing you to buy those things. This feeling that you have where you lack something. And I want to talk about the scarcity mindset and how it goes hand in hand with our overconsumption, because I think that's a really, really big piece of the puzzle that we're not discussing often enough. As I got older and I started making more money through various jobs, my relationship with money got a little bit more and more skewed, because I realized that even when I was spending a lot, I was still bringing in what I needed to bring in. My spending never got me in trouble. I never had a credit card bill that I looked at and I couldn't, pay off. I never had a missed bill. I never had a missed car note, things like that. Like, I was never getting in trouble with my spending. And so my saving just kind of went down and down and down, because I wasn't being very mindful of how much I was saving. saving, in my head, I thought, okay, well, it's been proven that when I spend what I want to spend and I can pay off my cards and I can do whatever I want to do, then I'm always going to be in a fine position. Which, while that was true, and while I was always fine and I was always financially secure and safe, I wasn't thinking about the future. I wasn't being very mindful about what my current spending was doing to my future spending or my future safety nets or emergency funds, things like that. I was very much spending for the moment, for the now. And the reason I let myself do this is because I had a little nest egg. I had a little emergency fund that I just wasn't really interested in growing or depleting. It was just kind of sitting there. And I wasn't thinking about, okay, well, in different points of life, your emergency fund is going to have to look different. You're not always going to live in a Roanoke, Texas, $1,200 a month apartment. Like, you're going to have different emergencies in life that are more aligned with the phase of life that you're in. But I wasn't thinking about that. So I had a little bit of a nest egg saved away, and I was like, okay, well, this is going to be good for now. This is all I need to put away. And I wish, if I could go back, I wish that I really had talked to somebody about financial success or just financial health, because I would have learned from a younger age that that's not the best way to go. That while I had an emergency fund and savings, which most Americans did not and do not have, it still wasn't setting me up for the best position that I could have been in. And when we think about scarcity mindset, we usually think about it in the way that, okay, well, I'm not sure when I'm going to get it again. I'm not sure if I'm ever going to have it or succeed, or if I'm going to, do the things that I want to do. And so I'm just going to hoard and I'm going to hunker down. But I want to talk about the opposite reaction to having a scarcity mindset is when you finally start to make real money, like a substantial money, and you just want to spend because you think, okay, I'm never going to have this opportunity again. Later in life, I'm going to have more responsibilities. I'm going to have a mortgage. I'm going to have kids. I'm going to have a spouse. I'm going to have parents that I need to take care of. Later in life, I'm not going to be able to spend the way that I want to spend. So I want to spend the way that I want to spend now. And that's equally dangerous as just hunkering down and not spending any of your money and not enjoying your life. It is also dangerous to spend all of the money you possibly can because you think later in life you're not going to be able to spend any money. You're not going to be able to find any enjoyment, have any, freedom to spend the money the way that you want to spend your money. And so you think you have to do it all right now. And that's where I was. I think that I just figured that later in life I was going to have so many more responsibilities and things that I was going to have to worry about and work towards. But saving for that was going to be a later issue. And thinking about that was going to be a later issue. I was just going to spend the way that I wanted to spend in the moment and deal with it later. And it's hard because I think that a lot of us go online and we see these people saying, oh, I have $60,000 in credit card debt. I have $100,000 in credit card debt, or I have $20K in whatever it may be about credit card debt. And if that number is above what you have, you think, okay, well, somebody else has it worse. So I don't really need to worry about what I've got going on right now because there are people who have more than me that are struggling more than me. And so this advice is not for me. And as someone who's never had revolving credit card debt, which I'm so thankful for, I was in that position too. I would get online and I would see people talking about really struggling with keeping their head above water with their credit card debt or whatever it may be. And I was like, oh, well, their advice isn't really for me. Their savings advice and tactics aren't really for me because that's not a struggle that I have right now. Lo and behold, it's easier to avoid getting into debt than it is to get out of debt. And I am not in any way, shape, or form shaming credit card debt. I think credit card debt is something that is unfortunately so prevalent in our society because of the way that we're sold to, the way that we feel like we constantly need to have more, that just sheer expensive things, even if you're not spending frivolously and freely, just the expensive things, rent, groceries, gas, just living expenses, things are so expensive. There is no shame in credit card debt because having credit card debt is not morally bad. It does not make you a bad person. There is no shame to carry. And I wanted to say that because I'm sure some of you guys do have credit card debt, and I don't want you to ever feel like there is a reason to carry shame for that. You made the best choices that you could in the moment, and now you understand those weren't the best choices, and now you can make different ones. Now you can make better ones and get yourself out of it. And there's beauty in that, and redemption in that, and freedom in that. And with my scarcity mindset, I was saying, okay, I can spend what I want to spend now, and I can do what I want to do now because later in life, I won't have the choice. And if only I had realized earlier in life that that was actually a symptom of a scarcity mindset, not an abundance mindset, like people online try to tell you, oh, just spend what you want to spend and do what you want to do because the money's always going to come back. Sure, maybe the money's going to come back, but that's not everybody's reality. And you shouldn't be spending like your favorite New York City rich influencer just because you think the money's always going to come back. You have to be honest about your current circumstances and what you believe your future is going to look like. And while it is a wonderful and exciting thing when the money does come back, you never want to be in a position where you are really struggling if it doesn't. And that was a scarcity mindset. And if I could go back and tell my younger self, instead of spending like you have no tomorrow right now, saving so that later in life you can actually spend freely and you do have that financial freedom is really important. And it's all about balance. At the end of the day, it is all about balance. It's not about saying no every single time your friends want to go to dinner in the name of saving money. It is just saying, okay, well, if I know that my friends love to go out to dinner Friday and Saturday nights, maybe during the week, I'm going to cook at home. Or saying, okay, I know that I really want this new outfit in a couple of weeks for this event, this thing that I'm going to. So I'm not going to click on sales links. I'm not going to go on different websites and browse around, because I know that when I just go casually browse around online, I always end up buying something. It's about setting healthy and manageable boundaries with yourself. And I think that's a really important key too. Best financial advice is the financial advice that works for you, right? There can be a million people online saying this is how you save and this is how you should spend and this is where you should invest. But if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't matter how acclaimed it is by everybody else. A boundary that I put in place for myself was that I don't subscribe to any marketing emails, right? If it says enter your email for 20% off, I don't enter my email, because I know that I'm going to forget to unsubscribe from my email and they're going to bombard me with so many marketing emails that I'm constantly going to be clicking on things and buying things. The number one culprit in my life was Anthropologie, because Anthropologie Living would send out these like, oh, we're having a sale. Oh, here's 20% off, whatever. And I would constantly go and I would browse, and it's hundreds and hundreds of items. And I'm clicking through pages of all these things, adding things to cart. And then I'd go to the cart and be shocked when my cart was well over $1,000. Then I've already put myself in the position where I formed an attachment to these things, right? Maybe you're like this too, where some people can add things to cart and then the desire to buy kind of goes away. They're like, oh, I already had my fun. For me, that wasn't working, because once I added to cart, I already established this pseudo ownership of these things. I thought, okay, I added it to cart. The only thing that's separating me from having this item is simply checking out. And so when I would go look at my cart and I would see that it was outrageously expensive, I didn't want to remove anything from cart and I didn't want to not buy it, because then it felt like disappointing myself. Then it felt like, oh, well, I already told myself I was going to get it. That was the point of adding it to cart. And now that I'm not going to get it, now I feel a sense of loss. I feel a sense of disappointment. And if you're like that, I know a lot of advice says add it to cart and then you don't want it anymore. Add it to cart and then the desire goes away. If you're like me and adding it to cart makes you feel like you already have partial ownership over something, don't do that. Don't add things to your cart. And I think it's really important that we get to the root of why we constantly need more. What is it within us that is making us feel like we constantly need more, that what we have is not enough? Is it simply that we go online? Is it simply that we're living our lives constantly being sold to and that's telling us we're not enough? Okay, so what can we do about that, right? Who can we unfollow? Who can we mute? What can we stop clicking on? What can we stop subscribing to that makes us feel like we constantly need more? Or is it this really deep-rooted insecurity that a lot of us are carrying around with us, saying, I am not good enough, but if I have this item, if I wear what they wear, if I go on the vacations they go on and drive what they drive, then I will be good enough. And I'm telling you right now, no amount of luxury goods are gonna make you feel good enough if your biggest battle is insecurity that you have left untreated. Because you're gonna get these clothes, you're gonna get that car, you're gonna go on that vacation, and while you're there, you are still not gonna feel good enough. You're gonna wear the exact same outfit and you're gonna point out all of the things that looks different on your body than it looked like online. You're gonna get to that vacation and you're not gonna want to take any pictures. You're not gonna want to enjoy it because you're going to feel like, oh, I don't even really deserve to be here. Every time you buy something or go somewhere thinking that it's going to help your insecurity, it only makes it worse. Buying things so that you can look like or be like somebody else only reminds you of what you're not who you are. And I'm not villainizing buying things. It is so okay and normal and exciting to want things and to get the things that you want. I say that all the time. It is a great thing to want something, and it is a great thing to get the thing that you want. But are you buying that thing because you think it's going to fill something in you? It's going to mend something in you? It's going to change something for you? Beloved, that $50 Abercrombie dress that you're getting for 20% off is actually not going to fill that void in you. When we finally do get these things, we have this really big inability to enjoy them while we have them, because it's like the minute we unbox it, the minute we open it and have it in our hands, then it's not special. The thing that makes it special is the fact that we don't have it a lot of the time. And I want you to remember that next time you're shopping. Is this special? Is this something that I really do want? Something that is actually going to meet a need that I have in my life? Or is the allure that I simply don't have it and other people do? Or not even about other people. Is the interest that I don't have it and I want to be the person that does have it, but because I don't, then that makes it special. And there are things that you're going to see and you want to get them because they actually are going to meet a need for you. They are going to fill a gap for you. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got it was a while ago, maybe like over a year ago. If you guys don't follow her, Lady Diana May, she is incredible. She's on Instagram, she's on TikTok. She gives really stellar fashion advice and just all around like a really, really great follow. I think she is so special and so great. She was talking about a wardrobe gap where she was looking through her closet and she realized she was constantly reaching for an item that she didn't have and constantly reaching for it. Not something that she reached for once, but she could easily fill that void with something else. It's something that she was constantly reaching for that she realized she didn't have. And so then she added it to a list. I believe that's how she explained it. And I can try to find the video and link it, but it was really, really great. So it's like, okay, I'm constantly reaching for a pair of black sandals. And a lot of my outfits would look really, really great with these black sandals. And none of my other shoes really are filling that. And I know that I would wear black sandals with a lot of my outfits. And I know that. Because I've tried on a lot of outfits that I know would look best with these black sandals. You don't get the black sandals just because you're being served an ad for them. You don't get the black sandals just because they're on sale. You don't get the black sandals just because somebody posted a pair of black sandals that you don't really like that much, but they're not that expensive, so maybe they'll do. You get them because you've been thinking about them and because you know you have a need for them, and then you introduce it to your wardrobe. And then there's a whole conversation of buying things so that we can be a version of ourselves, so that we can envision a version of ourselves. So this version of myself wears this kind of stuff, or this version of myself vacations in this place, or she eats these things, right? And sure, that's exciting to think about this future version of yourself that does these certain things, and you want to buy the things because you think if you buy the things, then you'll become her. But you actually are not going to become that version of yourself without doing the work. And do you think that that higher self, that ideal version of yourself, is carrying around a bunch of debt and a bunch of stuff that they don't actually need? Or do you think that that higher version of yourself is actually really financially secure and really financially free because she's mindful of how much she's consuming and she only buys things that she knows she actually has a need for? It is not about your higher self wearing that Gucci bag so you get the Gucci bag and suddenly you're her. It is about the fact that your higher self could buy that Gucci bag 3 times if she wanted to, but she buys it once and she carries it because she loves it, not because she saw somebody else have it and she thought that if somebody else had it, then she'd be great too. But if you're spending all of your money on miniskirts and ballet flats and you go into the office 4 times a week, when are you actually wearing those clothes? Or do you have a closet full of clothes that aren't practical for the life that you're living? If the higher version of yourself has certain furniture, but it's not actually practical for the life that you're living right then you have all this furniture, but none of it makes any kind of sense. It is a really fine line to walk with envisioning and doing things to lead you towards this future desired version of yourself and living the life that you have right now. And it is really easy to overconsume so that you can become overconsuming so you can become rarely ever actually works out, because the version of yourself that you are trying to be is actually mindful, and teaching yourself to not be mindful, teaching yourself to not be thoughtful about how much you're consuming, how much you're buying, how much you're actually using is only pushing you away from that higher version of yourself, because she probably doesn't do that. But how are you going to unlearn that behavior when you finally, quote, get there? Wherever you go, there you are. All of the things that you do to get to this version of yourself are going to stick with you. So I just want to give a few actual practical pointers to stopping that overconsumption and being really mindful of our spending and of our financial habits. Number 1 is reminding yourself that just because it's on sale does not mean it's an emergency. That thing will likely go on sale again. And by the time it goes on sale again, you might not even want it. Just because it's 20% off doesn't mean you actually need it. And if you wouldn't buy it at 100%, you don't need it at 20% off. You have to justify buying something by saying it's only, you don't actually need it. Because if you actually needed it, if it actually brought value into your life, it wouldn't matter if it was only $10 or if it was only $50, right? The only wouldn't really matter because you would be willing to spend the money for that added value. A bunch of things that are only whatever price it may be are just frivolous things most of the time. One of the best things I learned how to do is spend with hindsight and foresight. Instead of just saying, okay, well, I'm going to spend $50 on this thing right now, I look back and say, what else have I spent money on and what other expenses do I have coming up, and see if that $50 item really makes sense there. And oftentimes it really didn't. It is so easy with Apple Pay, with Google Pay, with Tap to whatever it may be, all of these easy instant ways to pay. It is really easy to not consider how much money you've already spent and how much more money you have to spend on other things that you may need or other things that you may want, which goes hand in hand with my next point. Stop using Apple Pay when you're casually shopping. If you're online shopping because something popped up and you clicked on it and then you've added a bunch of things to cart and then you're going to go check out, do not use Apple Pay. Give yourself time to think about it. And that time is going to be when you're putting in all of your credit card information, when you actually have to go grab your card, you have to sit down with it, you have to put all the information in, and then you have to go through the steps. That actually gives you time to think. And I'm not saying that's going to stop you every single time. I'm just saying that is a more thoughtful process than clicking Apple Pay, doing Face ID, and then boom, it's on its way in 3 to 5 business days. You've got to decide what you refuse to let your emergency fund go below. So I know that a lot of times people will buy a bunch of things and they're like, oh, okay, well, I can just pay it off with my emergency fund, or I can just, quote, pay myself back. And a lot of us get into trouble with that paying ourselves back because we don't really ever actually do it, because in the time that it comes to pay yourself back, you actually already have more things that you need to pay off. And so you're not actually paying yourself back in the way that you intend to. You have to decide what is the absolute minimum you're going to let your emergency fund go to. And I really highly recommend it being 6 months of expenses, and not just 6 months of rent, but 6 months of expenses. The best way to figure out what 6 months of expenses is going to be is go through your budget and see what you have actually spent in the past 6 months. Not, okay, well, I think I could maybe spend a little less here, or maybe I could go without that. See what you've actually spent to maintain your quality and your way of life in the past 6 months, and then you'll see what that emergency fund needs to be. If the number sounds crazy to save but not crazy to spend, then that's a conversation you have to have with yourself. Because why would it be so crazy to save 6 months of expenses, but it seems so normal to just go ahead and spend it? And this might be a kicker for some of us, right? But if you have enough to spend frivolously, you have enough to invest. And I know investing seems scary and big and really like, where do you even start? But the same internet that you can use to online shop is the same internet that you can learn to invest with. So it just depends on what you're willing to use the internet for. And for my girls with ADHD, we've got to find healthier, easier ways to get that dopamine hit. I know I get a really big dopamine hit when I go to a Pilates class. I get a really good dopamine hit when I have a great conversation or a great laugh with a friend, right? I also get a really big dopamine hit when I online shop and when I impulse buy things. But understanding that just because I get a dopamine hit there doesn't mean that's the only place I can get one. Reminding myself that when I want to online shop and when I want to impulse shop really, really quickly and I just want to be tunnel vision on it, I have to step back and remind myself, I know what I'm looking for. I'm not actually looking for the thing. I'm looking for the hit, and I know I can get the hit somewhere else. And I have this little script that I wrote out on my phone for when I want to impulse shop, and this has saved me so many times. It is really simple. It says, you are not lacking anything. You don't need to fill any void. New things are only exciting because they're new, not because there's value in the things. It is okay to want things and to get the things I want, but it's so important to be mindful and aware of why I'm buying them and how much I'm spending on them. Then I have a little checklist that I go through before I buy an item. Number 1, do I have anything like it? Why do I want it? Can I find a home for it? How long have I wanted it? Can I find it for less? And have I thought about it for 48 hours? Once I go through that little script and then go through the checklist, oftentimes I'm like, well, damn, I guess I don't really want it then. I guess I don't really need it. Sometimes we have to say no to ourselves and be stern with ourselves because that's the only time we're going to be able to get past that impulse cycle. And I want to finish off with reminding you that just like with credit card debt, you are not bad for having a problem with overconsumption. You are not bad for wanting things, for buying things. We live in an age where we are constantly being sold to you. We live in a time where you cannot get online or go outside or watch TV or have a conversation without somebody bringing up an item they bought, an item they think you should buy, or just subtly placing it in there so that you can see it. It can't really exist without being sold to you. It feels really impossible. So because of that, it is not your fault for falling into it, but it is your responsibility to be honest about what you can do to get out of it, to reframe that mindset. It is really easy to say, okay, well, we're being sold to all the time, so I might as well just just buy all the time. It's really easy to fall into that. And it is a lot harder to say, yes, I'm being sold to all the time, but no, I don't need to buy all of the time. Those are two different things. And once you can get that down and reframe that self-conversation, that instead of saying new, more, I say no. There is such a big benefit to financial mindfulness and financial health. And we probably are going to talk more about this on a later episode, but this is just what I've been thinking about a lot right now as I have been saving up for my house. We have the down payment, we have the closing costs, I have to furnish the house. Like, there's a lot financially that's going into it. And while I am in the position to be able to do it comfortably, and I'm so thankful for that, I just think about how much more I would have had and how much more comfortable I would have been had I not been spending so frivolously and so thoughtlessly, because a lot of the things that I was spending money on have not added any value to my life. I was packing up my closet and I realized that a lot of stuff still had tags on it, which is like, why did I spend the money on it? Now it's outside of the return window, and I realized that $30 here, that $50 there, that $10 there, it all adds up, and that's all money that I don't have in my savings account. That's all money that I can't put towards furnishing my house in a way that's actually going to add value, because it's just hanging in my closet unused and unworn. When you look at how much makeup you have that you've only used a very little bit of before you went to the next thing, or how much skincare you have where you only used a little bit before you moved on to the next thing, instead of shaming yourself and saying, God, I wish I didn't buy this, or beating yourself up about it, think about what you can do with that item that can actually increase its value to somebody else. Can you give it away? Can you donate it? What can you do with it that would actually help somebody else, instead of hoarding it and saying, okay, well, I already bought it, so I'm just going to save it and then maybe one day I'll use it. You know you're not going to use it. You've had months and months to use it and you didn't. Give it to someone. Increase that lifespan and that value of that item. While you may not get your money back, that item still will get good use and go to a good home. This is just the beginning of the conversation around overconsumption and overspending, and I only really scratched the surface. There are so many great resources out there, but I just wanted to share what I've been thinking and what I've been doing lately to really make sure that I'm maximizing my wealth and make sure that I'm putting myself in the best financial position that I can be, and I wanted to share that with you guys. But thank you so much for tuning in, and we will talk next week. I love you so much, and I'm on your side. Mwah.